Daytime Show. IndieLife.radio. The Daytime Show. IndieLife.radio.
Welcome to Indie Live Radio, a Friday morning show, and this is an interview that we recorded a few days back with our guest, Andy Anderson. Thanks for coming on the show, Andy. It's really good to have you.
No problem.
That's all right. And of course, I'm here with Val Gold as per normal on a Friday morning.
So another Andy Anderson then, because you know there is another Andy Anderson that we've interviewed before. Have you come across him? He's written books about currency.
Hopefully, you won't get too confused. People won't get too confused actually with hearing that there's two. I'm sure there's lots of Andy Andersons in Scotland anyway. Yeah. So I first had a bit of contact with you, very informally. It was a while back now. It was in Perth when there was a group of Yes activists in Perth who were looking into setting up another Pensioners for Indy group, one based in Perth. And if I'm remembering correctly, you gave a presentation at that. Is that right?
I did, yes. Yeah.
That was when we could have actual meetings and travel up to Perth. And so since then, so you're in Perthshire, Perth City, and I know you're active in the Yes Perth City group, but you've been producing videos in support of independence. So could you just tell us a wee bit about how that came about?
Well, what actually started it was basically I've been collecting information since 2013. Obviously, it gets out of date as time goes on. And when I joined Yes Perth City, along at their first meeting, I did it in 2017. It seemed to me that the little group was quite well organised with lots of leaflets and sales flyers and for the stall on the high street and so on. But if somebody asked you that, or had a go at you, that's actually, what about the information behind that? And, and basically that doesn't exist, although people like myself and others have actually been trying to do it on the internet for some time. So it was actually that late 17 that I sat down, looked at what I had, brought it up to date, and I'm guessing it was early February or something, 18, when I showed a draft to my Yes Perth City steering group. It's been tweaked and adjusted.
Yeah.
And initially it was too long because I had a little bit on other non-economic issues, just like payroll, that type of stuff. But it was too much in one thing for people to concentrate. People kept telling me that's too long. People can't concentrate more than 50 minutes. And I seem to remember school lessons being a wee bit longer than that. And TV programs are just a wee bit longer than that. But anyway, so I actually started putting it together, and it's been adjusted as I was doing initially PowerPoint presentations. It got changed based on feedback. And also you learn new facts as time goes on. And it was trying to put it together in a way that would flow. And the economy one, obviously, you have to put fact in it. And the purpose of the economy one was really to answer the annual have a go at the fact that Scotland's bankrupt in the public sector.
Yeah.
The public spending. And it's a boring subject, and to try and tell that bit in 5 or 6 minutes is quite hard. You've no idea how often I redid it. And so that's really how the economy one done, as a PowerPoint presentation. And it was starting to get rolled out, my presentation PowerPoint, around village halls and things like that, trying to get people who weren't yesers to come to the meetings. Of course, I just got going when March last year hit us.
Yeah.
And then I got frustrated because we couldn't do anything really. So I decided to make the presentations. 3 times while I was doing the PowerPoint presentations, different groups said, "Oh, we'll turn that into a video for you." I'm still waiting. So I had to go and did it myself. There's nothing complicated about using YouTube. It's just, if you haven't done it before, it takes a little bit of time to learn the rules. And like the embed thing and all this, so that you can put it into other sites. So I actually made a list of 5 videos, one still to go, to start with the logical, to answer the main questions that came out in 14 and afterwards. The latest one, the borders, it was interesting. My wife noticed today in the Independent newspaper that apparently Scotland could never go independent because of Brexit and the chaos that would be on the border.
Yes, it's one of the new scare stories that will emerge, isn't it? The border one.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. So I could have put more into the border one, for instance, but you just have to do the basic facts and not supposition too much. So.
The National did an article recently about you, Andy, about your videos, I believe.
No, the pension one, it was a full page in the National, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was good. That got lots of viewers and criticism. I was actually trolled by a well-known unionist person as well. So
that's probably a mark of fame when you start to get trolled, Andy.
It was actually done in a very subtle way. Email, it wasn't aggressive or nothing. It was very subtle. So I thought about it and replied the next day, and just as subtly and nicely told them to go away. So that was it.
That's how you handled it.
Yeah, I've also blocked his email address.
So he actually emailed you?
Yes.
He didn't post negative comments on the YouTube channel?
No. Well, I've actually blocked comments.
Oh, right, okay.
For that reason.
Yeah.
You can tell me you like it in this, but that's it.
I certainly, I've watched a few of them, and I must admit, I know you're saying that people concentrating, but I do notice that because I'm online so much, I do think it does affect your concentration, because I must admit I enjoyed the one that was only 15 minutes better than the longer one. Yeah. But we're both very good. I've only seen 2 so far, the pensions one, which I thought was fantastic, and also the one about independence. But I'm going to watch your other one.
That can only ever be a personal view, of course.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And I'm going to see the one about borders next. I think that's really pertinent, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you said that National article, I didn't see the article itself, but I did see it being mentioned in quite a lot of Facebook, yes supporting groups. Of course, there's so many of them on Facebook, but I saw it appearing quite a lot and thought, oh, that's that's Andy there. So has it become thousands of people watching the videos, or
24 hours, there's 1,000 people had seen the pensions one.
Yeah,
and of course, over time, it mentions that 2 other videos, so people start to look at those.
As I say, we were interviewing another guest earlier this afternoon, and one of the things we got on to talking about was just it was something you've raised, Val, wasn't it? About how often in the Yes movement we could kind of end up in a bubble, especially on Facebook and social media, but maybe even in other ways as well. I mean, I know very, very few people who are still convinced about staying in the Union, but obviously there's a lot more than that proportionately in the population. So so we were just talking about ways in which we can maybe get ourselves out of those sorts of bubbles, and it did strike me that what you're doing, putting it on YouTube and making and then it's all shareable. Yeah. Maybe that's one way to move out.
Yeah, it is, but I think people still tend to send it to people they know. Well, on my contacts list, I've got lots of people who I know do support the union, and they get them whether they like them or not, right? I mean, I've got one couple who I've been friendly with for 20 years who are very strong. I mean, the world could die and they'd still vote for the union, you know, and no matter what you say, it's wrong. And they can get information for a more reliable source than the HMRC and Office of National Statistics. You know, it's called the make-up one. And, well, they even the HMRC make figures up. It's statistics. So it's actually hard to get them out. I just send it to anybody. But I put a nice note in saying, if you don't want these again, let me know. Because I have them in a separate contacts list.
Yeah.
So if somebody says, I don't want this again, I take them out.
Yeah.
And that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But if they don't say anything, they get everything.
One of the things I really liked about your videos, and they are just it's very simple. You know, it doesn't go into. I mean, you've got lots of facts and lots of information, but it's presented in the clarity of it, and it's simple to understand. You know, it's not sort of couched in lots of mumbo jumbo, if you like. I really like the clarity of the message. Is that something you were particularly aiming for?
Well, I usually try and I do it the way in my working life I can remember it. When you were presenting something, you had to think of the audience, and so you write down the facts as you see them, the points you want to get across on a piece of paper, and then actually just put it together and in your head go through it, and then muck about with PowerPoint and tweak it until you get it right. And my wife's a good editor. She says, no, you can't say that. It is hard. I mean, it's early days. I'm looking at currency, and there's so much in that. But the message is actually simple, so it needn't be complicated. So my issue is going to be with that one, saying enough to make it believable, but not too much that people fall asleep.
I think pensions is definitely something that we need clarity of message on, because that was really a big stumbling block last time round, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, currency is as well.
Yeah, that's true.
The thing with the currency the last time was, one, the SNP people on the television just let it lie. They didn't act, didn't reply. And the media, knowing that George Osborne told a lie, never said anything.
Do you think that's something that is maybe a weakness of the Yes movement, is the rebuttal of the myths and misinformation? The rebuttal of a lot of that misinformation has to be much stronger?
It is. And I mean, very few of us get the chance to go in the media. Mm-hmm. And they deliberately ignore people that are well known in the Yes media, if you like, or the electronic media. So it's really hard. But I do think, and it's getting a little bit better, but I do think the SNP politicians that do get on the television and these shows, they need to, do a little bit of education here of themselves and get the basic facts in their head, because it's not helping for them not knowing.
Yes.
I think... Sorry, Marlene, on you go.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to agree with you. I mean, I do find myself thinking that sometimes as well, sort of watching, a ScotGov, spokesperson or someone from the Scottish Greens, and I'm thinking, well, why don't you say that, or so I'm aware of things that they could have added in, and I mean, it's not. I'm sure they're aware of them, but they don't seem to do it. And certainly with the SNP, I think sometimes they just are a bit too polite, actually. They need to be a bit more robust coming back. Although it is difficult because they also get, the presenters of the programmes actually will just talk over them. I mean, that happens as well. Yeah. I suppose it is hard to strike a balance.
Yeah. On names to get the videos out there, I send it to everybody who's listed with an email address on the Indie app site. Mm-hmm. And there's other groups that you can do, and lists I've made. And I've tried 3 times in the last year to get the SNP, anybody in the SNP, to actually help. There's 120,000 members that you could put it out there and they could use it when the campaign starts, after May, hopefully. And the reaction from the SNP is zero. They're not even polite enough to reply to my emails, so much so that I've deleted their directories and everything on my computer. I've given up with them.
Yeah.
I was at the launch of the Believe in Scotland organisation back in the spring there. So it must have been about February, actually, because it was before, or March. It was because it was before lockdown, because it was held, you know, in real life, as it were. And one of the things that they said they were going to have was an app with all the facts about different aspects of Scotland's economy, so that if people were out canvassing in Chatham Doors and somebody asked a specific question about a specific topic, they'd be able to access that information on their phone and give people the you know, the sort of accurate response, which I thought was a great idea.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And maybe, I mean, to be honest, I'm not surprised that you didn't get a response from the SNP. But then there's other avenues. You know, there's the.
You know, you mean the new one that's just launched? No.
Well, let's go with the new one that's launched, because there's now Scotland, which, you know, isn't about groups, it's about individuals. But I'd have thought that would be a valuable sort of bunch of folk to contact, because they're going to have to build up resources. I mean, they've got themselves a new website and everything. They're going to have to build up resources. But there is another group that's about putting yes groups in touch with one another.
Well, our local, within Perth, there's, because of the geography of Perth, there's 9 yes groups. So in that system you're talking about, we've set up the Perth Independence Network so that we can feed as one, if you like, we talk among ourselves. And then that gets fed into this other network, and I've temporarily forgotten the name as well. But because I'm not the secretary within the group that deals with it, so.
Madeleine, are you thinking of the National Yes Network?
Yes, that's right. That's what it is. Yeah. So maybe it's you know, in those they're sort of wider based, they're not party political, they're wider based, and I'd have thought that might be more fruitful ground to try and put things through. I mean, but the group that I'm involved with most is Pensioners for Indy, and we try and do that. We try and just make people aware of the, you know, the various leaflets that we've produced.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually interesting when you're standing in front of people and speaking to people face to face in a street. I actually find street stalls really interesting, even though I've been called a Nazi. And
I was called a pervert.
I've certainly been told you should be ashamed of yourself.
It's actually interesting. You just got to be polite with people and walk away. Yeah. But I found it really interesting, and that was the driver behind me doing this, is because you couldn't, for those that generally wanted a conversation with you, they actually wanted more. And okay, I could give them Business for Scotland website, and I can give them, you know, the Ginger Dug and things like that. And at one time I used to give Wings Over Scotland, but that was it really, you know. And I know that you know, there's quite a few people doing things on currency now.
Yes.
You know, out there, and some of it is actually quite good. So it's just a case of trying to think how you say it and where do you send it.
Yeah.
So how would you envisage like, say if I was on a stall, how would you envisage me directing somebody to your YouTube? Do you have cards with the reference, or would I just tell them what to look for on the
internet? We will. Well, the YouTube videos have only really got done after lockdown. Yeah. So there has been no street stalls. But I'm hoping with everyone getting the drag that sometime later this year
we'll be able to get back.
We'll be able to have a mask-wearing street stall. We'll still be wearing... The drag doesn't stop you wearing the mask, because you're not fully protected.
Yeah.
No.
But, I'm hoping that'll be, and I envisage that as a card, but also having on the cards other sources.
Mm-hmm.
But it's up to the person to actually go and make the effort.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The Pensioners for Independence, like some of our friends in the movement are very active. I've for the last few years now, I've been doing regular stalls, but the stalls I was doing were SNP ones. But the Pensioners for Indie were for quite a long time did one every week in Argyle Street in Glasgow, right in the middle of the pedestrian precinct shopping centre.
Yeah.
And they stopped during the lockdown, but they started again, Marlene, didn't they? But they did them in a very limited way. They were very careful about how they did it, but they did start up the stalls again. And they were also doing a thing. Have you heard of the National Banner Library that Grassroots Open started?
No.
So the National Banner Library was an idea that they would make banners and have a stock of them, and yes groups would pay a certain amount of money, and for that they would get some of the, I think 5 banners was it, or more, for a month or so, and then they would
I'm just writing that down.
They would be passed on. We can send you the link for that, Andy.
Well,
But they would be passed on to another group, and then they would get different banners. And the idea was that even during lockdown, these can be displayed in prominent places, like maybe somebody's garden fence or on a piece of land. And in the city, the Pensioners for Independence, what they were doing was just going at certain times and displaying the banners and standing near them to make sure that.
I remember that. Do you remember they did a really big one last year in London?
Yeah.
Aberdeen or Inverness or somebody did it and things like
Aberdeen,
that.
I think.
Aberdeen Independence Movement. Was it somebody called Jack Elphinston that did it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Well, I mean, it's interesting you mention the Banner Library, Val, because when I was, I watched the one on the borders this morning, and it did occur to me that some of them, I mean, some of your slides have got a lot of detail on them. I mean, some of them have got a lot of numbers on them, but you've got other ones, and that won't work on a banner like that. But you've got other slides where you do a summary of what the main points are. And I did look at those summary slides and think, oh, maybe something like that, maybe a little bit simplified, would be quite good on one of these banners. And then, you just need to put a website address on the bottom of the banner to direct people to know where to go and look at them. And Val and I are in contact with the people who run the library, and they're always on the lookout for new ideas. So it might be worthwhile having a wee think about that.
Well, I've taken a note, so... Yeah. I mean, this will never happen, but if I won serious money in the lottery, I would actually put key things just like you're talking about with the URL links for those that want to look, and I'd be actually putting posters around on, the billboards.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes, everywhere. Yeah.
And that's how I do it, because driving past every day, if you're going to work or the shops, you see them. There's still quite a lot of billboards about.
Believe in Scotland are mounting a billboard campaign soon, and I was at their you were there as well, Marlene, weren't you? They had a bun supper last Saturday, like not this Saturday, but the Saturday before, and they raised over £4,500 for their billboard campaign, because they are very expensive, aren't they?
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
But it's just a thing to do, and I think on the information thing directly from the SNP we talked about earlier, I think they're wary. Because when they put that big, thick white book out in 2013 or 14, whenever it was, of course, if you give people information, they'll attack it.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's why they're wary at putting stuff out.
Yeah. We saw that with Brexit, didn't we? They put out nothing. Yeah. All they had was stupid slogans, but they still managed to pull the wool over people's eyes. But
I know. There was no Remain campaign. That's the trouble.
Well, I campaigned for Remain. I was out campaigning on the streets then, I remember.
Yeah, I know, but the UK government didn't have a Remain campaign, and the media, because they didn't have a Remain campaign, the media just talked to Farage and these people,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
and looked at red buses.
Yes, exactly. Indeed,
Yeah,
indeed.
and that's why I try to do in my videos. I try to put detail, yes, because you have to prove where you're getting it from,
Yeah.
but you need to have the summaries. Like on the pension one, I've got that one that I found from a DWP report when they were talking about pensions at a burden.
Yes, that really cut through that phrase. It just cuts through a lot of,
Yeah.
the kind of camouflage that Tory government used to talk about pensions. That was amazing.
Well, it was
when
a
I saw
published
that.
report by the DWP, so I looked through it, and that graph jumped out, that picture
Yeah,
jumped out. So I'll
Yeah,
have that.
really, I was really struck by that as
yeah,
well. And
yeah,
I think it's so important, and it's also reflected on some of the Pensioners for Independence literature and leaflets. I don't think people in this country genuinely appreciate how appallingly low our pensions are when you compare them to other countries.
I know.
yeah.
I know.
And one of the Banner Library banners it does just have a very bold. It's pretty simple, the message is our pension. Look, our pension is only 29% of the average, wage in this country, and even just that gets people thinking. So. Yeah, maybe it just all kind of ties back round to, you want someone who's not a convinced unionist, because we probably never convinced them, but, the 20% or so who's in the middle who, if they something catches their eye or they hear something, that hopefully they'll go, oh, I didn't know that, or where can I find out more?
Yeah, the trouble is we have, as you know, it's the media in this country. Like I had a link to this European website, and every time there's something new, most of it I don't bother with. But that ESCH report, the one I mentioned, that said that we're breaking the Human Rights Act because we're still under the Human Rights Act, and giving people a pension that on their own, with that pension, they couldn't live.
Yeah.
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 And that's and none of that made the media.
Well, no, it doesn't. I mean, and it's also true that people who only have the state pension as their income have also got access to other benefits. But it would be so much better if everyone got what they needed, and they weren't also having to remember to apply for pension credits or council tax reduction or, rent payments, housing benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to cover some of that in a minor way in my talk on my vision of a future. To get you can't give these things unless you've got money. So that's why I'm personally, although there's downsides, I'm personally in favour of annual ground rent because it guarantees public income.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it'll upset some people. Like the Queen at the moment pays $15,000 a year in rent for Balmoral. With annual ground rent, she'll have to pay $95,000. But that's the way it goes.
My heart bleeds.
Oh, I know. It's such a shame, isn't it? Poor old soul.
No, but I mean, if you do own a lot of land, even if it's not much you can do with it, you will suffer under annual ground rent. But the hope would be that I think that people that are in that situation would actually do something to generate wealth from the land to pay, and then in turn employ people.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, indeed.
That's digression.
Indeed. I'm just reading Graham McCormick's book about it just now. Actually, and I've heard him talk a couple of times, and it's very, very persuasive.
It is persuasive. I mean, there's downsides, and you'd have to be clear how you handle people that rent. I tried to say that in my little talk, the one on the future, that you will pay much more rent, a more realistic rent, but you're not paying for VAT on everything, and you're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I did look into it because I was at a talk by Graham McCormick recently, and he offered during the talk, if anyone emailed them, he would, if you sent him your address and your postcode and described your property, he would send you back an approximate, a sort of estimate of how much you would pay. And at first glance, it looked like a bit, because I think some of us elderly wifeys who live alone were thinking that, and own our own homes, were thinking that, we would be penalised. But in actual fact, when you factor, just exactly what you're saying, when you factor in all the other taxes that you wouldn't be paying, you actually we'd be fine.
Well, just like if you're going on holiday, you won't pay VAT.
Yeah.
There won't be any VAT.
Yeah.
20% off everything.
Yeah.
Well, apart from food, which is VAT-free anyway.
Yeah.
The only issue with AGR is that the European Union, they'd have to agree that, especially if we went that route, because in the EU, you have to have VAT.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, I know. He does talk a bit about that in the book, but so it would have to be a kind of a modified version, not a pure version, if we were caught up in that. Anyway, that's be a nice problem to have for the future, because, well, I mean, you'll know from what Graham's calculations. I mean, his calculations include everyone getting a basic income, as well as an old age pension if you happen to be of that age, which is, I mean, I did the well, one of the basic calculations he does, sort of semi-detached 3-bedroom house in a city, 2 people living in it, that's pretty well describes where I am at the moment, with a wee garden back in front. I looked at the amount of rent and thought, wow, that's a lot. It was something like 4,500. But then, he, as you say, he lists what I wouldn't be paying, and there's 2 of us here. We'd be much better off. I mean, sometimes I do read Graham's stuff and I go, "Oh God, can that really be right?" But the arithmetic's all there. Actually, that's why I say it's very persuasive. Yeah. So just before, I'm just looking at the time here. Just before we kind of finish, Andy, so it sounds like your next project might be about currency. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff out there, and it's good. And I'll reference it with a URL link in case people want to look at it. But I'm trying to make it something concise, highlight what the issues are without going into like boring people with the detail. Yeah. There's actually a really interesting thing in this book by Commonweal. How
to Start a New Country.
It's not a small book.
No.
But there's some good stuff in there. And there's, 1 or 2 people have been, forgotten his name temporarily, goes around and does talks. He's in the SNP and he wants to, about the central bank and everything.
Oh, Tim Rideout.
Yeah, Oh, yeah. He was going to do a talk for us, and then once again we got hit by the lockdown last year. He was going to talk to our group. But he's got some good videos as well. He
does. And, I mean, there's a very active Facebook group that he's set up called Scottish Currency Group. But I do think there is a definite place for what you're doing, which, isn't going to be a big book, and it isn't going to be a great, long, complicated, presentation either, but just taking the essence out of these questions and getting people to start thinking a bit. Yeah. Well, in a sense, a lot of what you've been doing, I think, is like debunking some of the myths around these.
Well, that's the whole purpose of these videos.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for some people, the economy one's a bit complex at the beginning with the public sector chairs, but there's only way you can answer it, that particular topic. And you're trying to talk about the country and how we're doing all in half an hour.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So I couldn't make it any shorter, because then you'd lose some of the stuff.
Maybe your idea of including links and URLs, if people want to delve into it deeper, you're including links that for people that want more.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just looking forward to getting into the streets again.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and going on some AUB marches. I enjoy those.
Even
more like a social outing.
Yeah,
and rain, and like the last one, remember in Glasgow back in January last year when it was absolutely pelting down.
Pelting down,
The mood was so joyous and happy. It was incredible.
Yeah. It'll be good. It'll be good. Oh, would just be good to be able to go for in my case, a run in the car outside of Glasgow.
I've actually got a sports car, and we bought it just a little bit before lockdown, and it's been so frustrating.
Yeah. Well, listen, Andy. It's been really good. It's been really good talking to you, and the recording will go out on Friday, and as well as that, we'll put something up on the our Indie Live Radio website about it, and that means I can include links to your videos as well. But thanks so much for coming.
Oh, okay, you'll get the currency one in March.
Yes, send it to me. Fantastic. They all go up on Pensioners for Indie website as well. So yeah. Good.
Okay, thanks very much, then.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you. This is a lockdown haircut.
Yeah, same here.
I was the one that was due to get my haircut 2 days after lockdown, so it was long at the time.
It looks fine.
It's pretty good, actually. Yeah.
And I'll send you some money as well onto the donation thing.
Oh, fantastic.
Oh, that's really
That's
kind.
great. Yeah.
Okay.
Cheers then.
Indie Live Radio.
So welcome to IndieLive.radio, and I'm delighted to have two guests with me from the new membership or national membership organisation, Now Scotland, and I'm here with Charlotte Ahmed. Hi, Charlotte.
Hello, everyone.
And Suzanne Blackley.
Hello, everybody.
Great to see both of you here. Now, I'm not going to rattle on and tell people about the organisation because although I do know a bit about it and I've joined myself this week, I think I was number 700 and something, although I joined not too long after the launch. I'd just like you two to go ahead and tell us all about the organisation, about its aims, about the launch and how things are going. Will I come to you first, Charlotte, perhaps?
Just hope everyone out there is well and keeping warm. And if you've had the COVID jab, I hope you're feeling good about that. Yes, there was an assembly way back in, I think it was late November, December. And that assembly, basically, thousands of people signed up for it and hundreds participated in it, a wide discussion about independence and about different issues relating to independence. And it was decided at that meeting that we constitute a new organisation, which is a grassroots organisation, membership organisation, and run by members, not a political party, an organisation that anybody could join who was in favour of independence for Scotland, with an emphasis on urgency. You know, that's why we eventually called it Now Scotland. At that assembly, a 15-person national committee was elected. Suzanne and I are members of that committee. We've been meeting twice a week ever since, and we finally, after lots of meetings and discussion and lots of discussions about politics and tech, it got launched last week on the website. And we have some social media that are going out there for those of you who are, just communicate via social media. That's not me, by the way. Maybe Suzanne could talk a bit more about that. Uh-huh. So we were very excited with the launch. We were very excited at the launch. Up-to-date numbers is 1,800, something around that.
That's
1,800. And we're hoping to keep going. We're being very, very positive about it. We understand that there's a lot of issues within the movement, within political parties. I mean, we can talk about that. We do not want to import those divisions into Now Scotland. We want it to be inclusive of all sides in some of these debates. We want it to be non-party, non-partisan, but we desperately want it. I know we're all frustrated because of lockdown, but we really do want to get out there. And when we can get out there after lockdown, we will be ready to build the biggest and best campaign we've yet seen for independence, because now is the time. So that's why we wanted to have a bit of urgency in it. And I think broadly speaking, the independence movement has welcomed it. Some people are a bit tentative about it, asking questions about it. That's fine. There may be some glitches with the website, but we're really pleased with how it's gone so far.
Well, so certainly you only launched last Friday. This is only Wednesday, and you've got 1,800 members already. So, and that's people who've signed up to pay a subscription.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's move. Yourself, Suzanne, what brought you into, why did you decide to stand for the committee? Is that something that you share, that sense of urgency that Charlotte is referring to in terms of the fighting for independence?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Charlotte would probably say that on the committee, I'm probably one of the more outspoken and I would probably say, vivacious about independence. I've got plenty to say on the subject. I'm a mum of 3. I just ultimately want a better Scotland for my children to grow up in. I don't want them to miss out on things. The fact that we've left the EU now, that means my children are going to have a different childhood than I had. So, and I felt I had quite a good childhood, but it could be better. It probably would have been better if we hadn't even been in this union. But the fact that we're now out the EU as well is going to have a major effect on my children. I mean, they can't, for instance, when they get to the stage of going to university, they can't just decide they want to go and study in the EU, somewhere in the EU, freely. So, I mean, there's massive challenges ahead, and I do think that, Scotland would be much better out of the union. Whether we join the EU again, that's a discussion to have after independence, obviously. But I do think that the union isn't doing us any favours anymore, and that's partly why I decided to put myself forward. I actually helped All Under One Banner to organise the original assemblies.
Yeah, I remember seeing you at that conference.
Yes, once seen, never forgotten. At that point, I hadn't really thought about standing for the committee, but I think after speaking to people at both assemblies, then I thought, why not? And thankfully, a lot of people voted for me, so thanks very much to the people who did. And we've been working very, very hard. The 15 of us, we've worked incredibly hard. I don't think people probably who are now joining or thinking about joining have realised how much work has gone into this by us all. And it's not about self-praise or anything like that, but they have. Everybody has done their bit and worked hard. It's been a group effort here. And thankfully we got launched. It felt like it was forever coming, but finally we got launched last week. And yeah, I mean, I'm so pleased with how it's gone so far. And ultimately, this organisation is about the members. It's it's not anything. We are all quite outspoken people, and we all have our own ideas about how we see an independent Scotland, about things, about our own opinion about how things are going just now, about things that are going on within the SNP, and different sorts of things. But it's not about us. None of it is about what we want. It's about what the members want, and they'll get their first opportunity at that on the 6th of March at our first assembly.
And that'll be another online event, obviously. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the last one was very enjoyable, and I suppose as each time that you have one of these events, you'll get more adept at operating them and facilitating them. So, but I think that idea of the democratic structure of the membership involvement and the grassroots power is very important, and that seems to be a key platform of this organisation. But you mentioned there, like the idea of bringing different types of people together. And certainly at the moment, as a member of the SNP, I'm in a state of consternation each day by, events and online. There's a tremendous amount of discord and bad blood, and I'm hoping that will become resolved at some point. But it's not it's not motivating, or it's very demoralising for the membership, I think, to see people, openly infighting. And I'm just wondering, the idea of your idea. I heard Andrew Wilson speak the other day about unity, and I wonder if you'd like to say a bit more about that, because it must be quite difficult in a group of 15 people who are quite different to make sure that you have that unity, that broad church. Charlotte, would you like to maybe touch on that, or
yeah, I think you're right, Val. I think we all knew that we'd have to work hard to make it work. There is as you say, there's a broad range of opinion on politics represented on that committee. As you will know, I'm very much on the left. I'm a socialist. And I also know that not everybody who is very vocal in the independence movement believes what I believe, and that is that you have to bring other issues into the fight for independence. Sometimes I think, and this is a personal opinion, that you're talking to yourself all the time and other people who are in the independence movement, so you're not building beyond the existing movement. And we know, 2014, it was a huge movement. This is where the yes groups came from. As you know very well, you tried to build outside of the SNP. There was other groups involved. It was very broad, but we didn't win. And one of the reasons we didn't win, I think, is that we should have really broadened it out even more and maybe made it more democratic then. We are always going to have the issue that the SNP is far and away the biggest and most influential force in this movement. That's always going to be the case. But we are determined to be very positive and stay away from the divisiveness of the past, both divisiveness within the SNP and arguments within the independence movement, which didn't help. It just divided people against each other. We're very much starting from this position of unity, that we want independence, we want it urgently. And I think that people understand that this is a very different situation we're in now compared to 2014. We've got the COVID pandemic, the effects that has had on the whole of society throughout the world. You've had these upheavals like what's happened in America with Trump, and Trump's gone, but very much the legacy of division, the racism, the negative, horrible nationalism of the people flying the Union Jack. I mean, every time you see a Tory, for example, they've got Union Jack behind them. This sort of divisiveness has come into politics now, and this is a platform for unity for independence. And so, although I argue that we bring in young people much more than there was there before, issues that motivate people to have taken to action before lockdown, like climate change, like Black Lives Matter, like all sorts of other things to do with, care, the health service, what the Tories were doing to our public services. These things motivate people. And I think the reason that it's going up in the polls, the support for independence, is people want a better Scotland on those issues. We can't continue. We don't want to continue like it was before. Lockdown has, if you like, we pause for breath and think, oh my goodness, we can't continue like this. We need real change. But to get that, we know it's not easy getting independence for Scotland, because obviously we can vote for a party that wants it time after time, and we vote against the party that ends up in Westminster, and yet we're still here. It's like Groundhog Day. So we certainly feel that the unity is needed, because now is the time to deliver this. So that's what we're trying to foster through, not just through the committee, but through the people that we're asking to join.
And what about yourself, Suzanne? Do you have anything to add to what Charlotte said there?
No, I mean, Charlotte's absolutely right. That's the main message that, for me as a committee member on Now Scotland, my message is that now is definitely the time. And we're not going to get our independence unless we do come all together. And that means that putting independence as first and foremost as the most important issue. I know that, there's a lot of arguments on Twitter and other social media sites about this whole wished for indie message that's going around just now. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have opinions about different things that are going on. I mean, there's the whole thing with salmon and sturgeon, and the GRE and all the rest of it. There's a lot of issues that are, and I have strong opinions on these issues, but and you can still have your opinions on these things. And I do quite regularly have opinions on these things, but ultimately don't lose sight of what is most important, and that is us having an independent country, because we're just, we can't go another 5 years. I honestly do not think that Scotland has another 5 years under the Tories. I think they will bleed us dry. And this, for me, I would like a push on the SNP, because they are our vehicle to independence. But I don't like the way that they're going at this whole basis on the Section 30. Personally, I don't think that is the way to go. This putting so much emphasis on a Section 30, I don't think is the way to go, because the top and bottom of it is Westminster can't afford to lose us. And they can say that we're too poor to be by ourselves, but ultimately they can't afford not to have us. That's the truth of it. But they're never going to come out and say that. But they have been saying regularly, on every time I turn on the news in the morning, it's the first thing I do when I get up is turn on the news, and there's always another Tory MP saying Scotland aren't going to get a Section 30 this year, and Scotland aren't going to get a Section 30 next year. I mean, there needs to be another plan. And an organisation like Now Scotland, even though we want to bring everybody together, we're not another leg of the SNP. That's something that I would like everybody to be aware of as well. We aren't like an extended table from the SNP. I'm an SNP member, but I am very, very frustrated by the way they're going about things.
You do have an SNP MP and people who stood for national office bearers on your committee, but you have a wide selection, and I'm sure you've got plenty of people on your committee who are not members of the SNP. So you've got that cohesion, really, haven't you, of different viewpoints?
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing I would mention as well, and I totally share your fears about not having another 5 years, because, as you say, we've already seen by things like the Internal Market Bill, where it's clear that Westminster and the Tory government are coming after our Parliament and our freedom to have things like, to mitigate their policies, things like the bedroom tax and to have free prescriptions. They don't want us showing them up, basically, by having a better society here in Scotland. And the health service is one of the things that scares me the most, the idea that will be food standards, all these things that can be laid open to big American corporations. And that's really, it's disaster capitalism, really, isn't it? And the wake of the pandemic is ideal conditions. We've already seen, sorry, I shouldn't be talking so much. I want to hear from you, not me. You've got me on my soapbox now. So tell me, Suzanne, I'll ask you as well. One of the great things I noticed about your committee of 15 people, that despite not having any mechanisms in place, that you ended up with either 7 or 8, I think, women, like either half or just over half the committee are women. So that's really good, isn't it? I thought that was very reassuring.
It was really nice, and I think we were all quite surprised about it. We shouldn't have been, because just anywhere that you look, there's a lot of strong female voices around, and so it shouldn't really have been a surprise at all. But I think it genuinely did shock us all that it worked out that way. And do you know what? I think maybe this has been a bit cheeky, but I think we've got things done so well because there is so many women. Women can multitask. Men don't have that ability.
You might that's right.
That's right. I'd second that.
Yeah, well, they do say that if you look around at some of the countries that have coped best with the pandemic, a lot of them are led by women heads of state. Plus, we all saw the thing with the parish council last week, where that lady all this talking men. Anyway, You reckon
that was a bit of light relief in a dark week last week, wasn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
The one as well, the Zoom meeting online in Texas where the lawyer had a filter of a wee kitten's face and he couldn't get it switched off. It's quite funny too.
Unfortunately, yes, our meetings are conducted impeccably and everyone's got control of the tech. But the thing about this new organisation is also that we're using this program called Nation Builder. Now, I'm not that tech-minded. I used a lot of tech because, as you will know, Val, as a teacher, you have to use tech. You've got to use technology to teach now. And I was still a teacher in lockdown. We were using a lot of online stuff, but this is something different completely. And it's an organising platform. So it means that once people join, you can then have interaction with the platform. You can upload videos, you can upload your video. We're asking people to upload a vision for an independent Scotland, maybe something that they particularly want to see, and that means that everybody who joins will be able to see that. You can upload photos and videos, but also eventually there's facilities that we'll develop which can organise people who join according to geographical area or whatever their particular interest is. If they would like to get a group together who want to talk about land reform or who want to talk about climate action or anything like that, this is the power of this tool. It's why it's called Nation Builder.
It enables people to get involved.
Yes. And we're quite hopeful that this will become something that the members themselves will be able to organise. But I am called me old-fashioned. It sounds really exciting, but I am desperate to get back out into the street and campaign and talk to people and march and lobby and all those things that we know were successful and with the marches as well. I really do want to do that. And I know that there'll be thousands of people that want to do that too. But this particular Nation Builder will be excellent. And it also means that people who can't get out to march for various reasons can be part of the activity too and build the movement in that way. So it's got lots of potential that's not been realised yet, but we do need people to join it to get involved in that.
Yeah, so just remind me, anyone that's listening, how they can join, Charlotte.
Well, you go onto the website, nowscotland.scot, and there will be a joining page there. There's some information about the organisation, a mission statement, and just about us. And then once you go join, then you have access to other stuff. Now, I'm just learning about it myself as well. You will eventually get a membership pack, which will be all sorts of little goodies like badges and stickers and things like that. We're not quite finalised what's going in that, but I hope people appreciate in lockdown, these things do take a little bit longer to organise. Yeah. And of course, as Suzanne's already mentioned, we really want participation in the next assembly on March the 6th.
One of the great things is that you can select the level at which you want to contribute, so you can actually join at quite a low figure, I think.
£2 a month.
Yeah, a very small amount, or you can choose to donate a bit more if you can afford it. So I think that's, I suppose a lot of political parties, I know the SNP do that as well. You can choose the level at which you contribute. So, also you've got a Twitter account and Facebook as well.
I think it's hand over to Suzanne about that.
We have a Twitter account, we have a Facebook account and an Instagram account, and they're all the same handle, so it's at Now Scotland Now.
Yeah, I'm following you on Twitter already, because I think there was, in fact, I actually reported another account that was masquerading as you.
That's right.
There's been a few.
I blocked them and reported them to Twitter. So I hope Twitter, because they were using the same header and everything, and I thought that was pretty.
There was a few who did that.
Yeah, there were a few. We had to report a few on that, just in that, literally about the first hour after we launched, I think it was, wasn't it, Charlotte? We had to report
Yeah, it was,
a few. It just shows you how quick they are.
I know.
There's a lot of negativity out there.
So, yeah, I got an email today reminding me about the Twitter account, although I'm already a follower, and saying that they were looking for people to help with the Twitter and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
great.
Yeah, that's basically. I mean, there was a lot when you join. There's questions about if you want to do letter writing, if you want to volunteer for different things, because this ultimately we want the members to be hands-on with it. It's not about us or whoever is in the committee in the future. It's not about them dictating or doing everything. We want the members to be fully involved in this because it's for them. It's not for anybody else but them.
Yeah, it's a membership organisation, and that's the focus. That sounds very, very encouraging. So you've got the social media set up. The website looks great. You mentioned, Charlotte, about looking forward to being able to go out and campaign on the streets and do marches again. Realistically, how long do you think that? I know I'm sounding like a journalist at the first minister's briefing. How long do you think it'll be before? But seriously, do you think maybe by the end of the summer we might be looking at being able to have real life events?
Oh dear, somebody's going to object whatever I'm saying. In my personal considered opinion, I think if the vaccine rollout goes well, and it has been so far, and we get everybody over 50 or over, plus the vulnerable, plus care home and frontline workers vaccinated, I think at that point there can be a consideration. Whether I don't know. I mean, they're talking about, for example, all festivals in the summer that were going to go ahead being cancelled. Big gatherings very close together, maybe not. Yeah. But I hope we could have local things. Yeah, maybe even if there was some social distancing. I mean, and then if that is done all across Scotland, that's a powerful statement in itself. But we're starting off with small. I mean, we're coming up. We'd like ideas from people, obviously, but we'd like people to take a selfie with a Now Scotland logo, and so we can just collate all those uploaded photos on the website too. That was very successful for a campaign in the summer I did with Black Lives Matter. They were just so touching. I was almost crying with some of the selfies that were sent in. People who were in lockdown in their homes, in their closes, in the back gardens, anything like that, because it gives you the impression of people being united even though they can't be together. But when we can have a march like that superb march last October in Edinburgh, or no, not last October, the October before.
The one
I don't know,
where it was lashing rain and people still came in.
Well, that January still came out, 80,000 people. I mean, I wonder if that was a COVID super spreader event. I don't know, but that just shows that people want this. People really do want this to happen. But what people were saying. I mean, I'm not an SNP member, but it does make me. Oh, what is it now? Every day there's something else. And I just sometimes think that the reason that I'm saying let's get outside of the independence fishbowl, let's get some new people and some new ideas in, is because I don't think this sort of inward-looking debate is getting us any progress at all. No. And that's basically why Now Scotland exists. Yeah. Because as you know, Val, there's lots of other groups that were in existence fighting for independence. Pensioners for independence, women for independence, there's political parties other than the SNP. But we sort of reached this impasse now. And I think people were shocked when the Tories were elected in the last general election with such a big majority. And I think people must have started thinking then, my goodness, come on, we've got to do something else. So that's what we're about. Yeah. And as Suzanne said, the committee's 15 people. We want to reach hundreds of thousands of people somehow. I'm not saying we're going to get an organisation of membership that size. Great if we did. But we want to reach all those people. with fresh ideas and a new energy. That's the new energy we need. Now, you and I are of a certain age, Val, but we've still got a lot of energy, haven't we?
Quite well. I try my best. I'm beginning to wonder. I've had my jag. That gave me a boost. I had my first jag this week. Then before you ask, no, I'm not over 70, right? I had my first inoculation, immunisation on Wednesday, and it really did boost my morale, I must say. And I know loads and loads of people that have had it as well. And I think it does give you a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, you know?
Yeah.
So we'll just have to wait and see in terms of the vaccine and how the rollout affect. I see that today they hit the 1 million mark. 1 million people have now been immunised. So that was absolutely brilliant.
That's good.
But see what you were talking about, the Tories there, you know, about being surprised about the Tories being elected with such a huge majority of about 80 seats. What really worries me, and it touches on what you were saying, Suzanne, about, you know, look, you know, we don't have another 5 years to waste, is this government in plain sight are absolutely horrendous. I mean, when you look at the deaths, when you look at the naked corruption of handing out, you know, all these contracts to their donors and their cronies and their own families in some case. You look at that, and yet the poll figures down in England show that the Tories are actually going up in the polls, even though their record in government is nothing short of, I can't even think of a word without swearing. It's just the most horrendous, shocking government, the worst Tory government that I've ever seen in my life, and I'm no spring chicken, and yet people are still prepared to vote for them. It just beggars belief, really. So Suzanne, how do you see the future, the next few months panning out in terms of now Scotland? You've got this the next assembly coming up, did you say on the 6th of March?
That's right, yes.
So that should be another good event to look forward to.
Absolutely. It'll be really good to meet all these members that have been joining. I'm really looking forward to being in a room. I think because being an SNP member, I feel quite frustrated that the lack of voice that we have, like the last two, the conference and the assembly, it was like, we didn't really get a chance to speak. The chat function was switched off a lot of the time, and it was just like, oh my God, you know, we're not, nobody's listening to us. That this will be completely different. This assembly for Now Scotland will be absolutely different. Everybody will have the opportunity to speak if they want to. That's what this is all about, and that's where the SNP have got lost along the way. They've kind of forgot about their members, and they're not listening to what they're saying. We will continue to listen to what our members say on a daily basis. You know, if there's something they want to bring up, then they can bring up, and we actually will be asking the members for ideas of what they want to discuss at this assembly. It's not going to be an agenda decided by us. It's going to be an agenda decided by the members. So I think that's a really important point to make. I'm a wee bit more like optimistic maybe than Charlotte. I would quite like to, even, you know, because this is probably going to be the most important election, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even remember a more important one. This is just going to be. We have to get an SNP majority.
Yeah.
To do anything, I think. I would like to see at least some sort of static rally of some description before the election on behalf of Now Scotland. I mean, I don't know how feasible it is. It depends on when we come out of lockdown and, you know, what the restrictions are like. But I would like to see something, some sort of, you know, just not even a march, just static, you know, 2 meters apart standing. I would like to see something. I think there needs to be something. I think that's part of the reason that so many people are falling out on social media. I mean, you see people fighting like cats and dogs. And I think that's a lot of the reason why is because they feel frustrated that, you know, they know this election's coming, how important it is, and they can do nothing. they've got to sit in their houses. They can't get out and make their voices heard. I think that's the biggest part of the frustration for them, and I think that is why people are falling out the way they are. I don't think in a march people have these discussions about, about gender and all the rest. I don't think when you're marching along next to someone you're having that discussion with them. I think you're just all focused on independence, and I think that's got lost because we've not been able to do it for so long.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, is there anything else you'd like to say then? If I'll come back to you, Charlotte. We're coming, I'm conscious that you've been very generous with your time, and I know you're both very busy with meetings and different activities connected with the organisation. So I don't want to do much of your time. I just wondered if there's anything else you'd like to say, just sort of to finish off. I'll come back to Suzanne as well. I've really enjoyed listening to you. It's really boosted my morale and made me feel a lot more optimistic. I feel as if your energy and ideas and positivity are quite infectious, because it is a bit of a negative time, let's face it. So Charlotte, if you get anything you'd like to just say.
I'll just to say that, I mean, we're all trying to work towards independence. Whatever organisation you're in, you can be in none, you can be in a party. I want to emphasise that Now Scotland is not a political party. We will not be standing candidates. We will not be endorsing any candidates. Clearly, individuals within the committee and members obviously will be. When it comes to the election campaign, no doubt they'll take some time out from Now Scotland and campaign for whatever political party, if they are in one that's standing. That's fine. But we as a group, as an organisation, are not. There's been a lot of questions about that and who's in it and is this group in it and all that. It's about unity, and it's about trying to keep those divisive issues at the door. I mean, obviously there's things that I will not, put up with. I've got strong opinions, as you know, as a socialist. But I do believe that if we want to win people to independence, we need to get the biggest possible turnout for voters in the election, voting for the parties that support independence. We want to then be the biggest possible right now. Let's go for it. How that manifests itself, if we're still in lockdown, well, let's discuss that. But we absolutely are not just going to sit at home and debate endlessly. And I get frustrated in lockdown. We are about action and we are about campaigning. And as people have said, we want it now. It's not soon enough for us, just if it comes this year. Yeah. I personally think we'll be in real trouble if we don't deliver a positive outcome on that road to independence this year. I think there's too much happening in the world. There's too many changes going on that can sweep us aside. I think the climate crisis is 10 years. We've got 10 years to fix things. Otherwise, there's a tipping point, the scientists tell us. That is not a long time.
No.
In the political cycle. It's only 2 political cycles. We need to start action now.
Yeah.
As Suzanne said about her children, the young people in particular are taken to the streets all over the world.
Absolutely.
They're not happy with the way things are. Corruption, environmental destruction, and just divisive politics, populist politics. They're saying no to them. And you've got to admit that in some parts of the world, you have to get into the street and fight for your freedom. Because if you don't, you're going to get jailed en masse. We've got the chance to do this by involving the mass of people in the process. And I think if we get enough people convinced and we do take to the streets and we do challenge the obstacles that state's going to put in front of us, we can win it. I mean, there's things happening in Wales, there's things happening in Ireland as well, as a consequence of the fallout from Brexit. But just opinions changing about how we can run things better.
We can feel the wind of change blowing, really.
I think we're part of that. But we could give a lead to it, Val. So, join Now Scotland, contribute to that debate, and let's make a difference now. No more waiting for the next election cycle. Let's do it now. Well
said, Charlotte. And can I come to you, Suzanne, for a few final words?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm head of outreach within Now Scotland. So I think my message would probably be, it doesn't matter what other group you may be a member of, we welcome anyone who supports independence. So we want to have a relationship and a good friendship with every other independence supporting group within Scotland. So I personally would be reaching out to every single Yes group within Scotland within the next few weeks to offer the hand of friendship. And we're not here to replace anyone. We want to work with everybody. That's ultimately the message of Now Scotland. We are here to work with everyone. It's not about us wanting to be here to take over. We don't think that we are, the only group, independence group within Scotland. We want to work with everybody, and that's, Charlotte and I are both going to work hard to build up these relationships with all these groups across Scotland.
Fantastic. And Charlotte did actually speak to our own Yes group, Yes Glasgow Northwest, back earlier last month in January, along with Chris Hanlon, the Policy Development Convener nationally of the SNP, and that was an excellent meeting. And the feedback we had, Charlotte, after of your speaking, Chris too, but very much yourself as well, incredibly positive feedback and emails about what you said and how you spoke. So now that the organisation's been launched, maybe we could get you, Suzanne, to come to Yes Glasgow Northwest and talk about it.
Absolutely. I can talk for Scotland, so I'm quite happy to talk to everybody.
I'll be keeping a close eye on the Twitter and the Facebook, as well as I'm sure everybody else who's listening will do too. And so I'd just like to thank both of you very much indeed. IndieLive.radio listeners, you've been listening to Charlotte Ahmed.
Hello, and take care, everyone.
And to Suzanne Blackley.
Thank you very much for having me.
Both from Now Scotland, and we'll just leave it there. I'd like to thank you both very much and wish you all the very, very best with this undertaking. And we look forward to seeing what happens in the months to come and watching what Now Scotland are going to be doing. So thanks very much, and cheerio.
Thanks. Bye.
Indie Live Radio.